We are live. I am super excited that you have time to hang out with us, Nathan. So thanks so much again.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped. It's gonna be
Yay!
fun. Yeah.
So we're kind of the ships in the night. I said earlier that, we have been in similar areas. Like we both did classes for music therapy ed. I went to St. Mary's for grad school. You went there for undergrad and grad?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I think we know similar people. I used to live like 45 minutes away from Cincinnati, so I'm sure we know similar people.
Yes.
The time we met, so thanks again. So this is the second medical rounds with music therapists that we've had.
Very cool.
And really pumped about it. And basically, we're doing this as a central mission for pediatric music therapy to connect medical music therapists together. Once a month, a different chat with a different medical music therapist, but same questions, just new answers. So before we get started, I would love to introduce you. So Nathan is a music therapist at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. His primary units served include, but are not limited to, cardiology, the CICU, surgery, and pulmonary. Nate is involved with numerous projects and responsibilities at the hospital, such as acting as the artistic director for the Cincinnati Children's Choral Collective, providing music for Services of Remembrance, and assisting with supervision of music therapy interns. And just all that spare time he has, he teaches at St. Mary's of the Woods College as an adjunct instructor, composes for various projects, presents music genre-related topics at AMTA conferences and gigs with various bands and musical ensembles. In his non-music related spare time, Nate is an avid consumer of anime, superhero TV shows, and movies. I love that. Nintendo video games and gummy candies.
Yes.
So, yay! It sounds like you just have tons of free time. I don't know what you're doing. Get up there, start doing some stuff.
I could use a new hobby or two,
Right. So that is so cool. I have never gotten to go to Cincinnati Children's and see what you guys were all doing, but I know there's so many of you, right? There's how many?
Yeah, we're really lucky at, we have, counting in my head, besides myself, 3 of us here at our base campus, 1 fellow, 1 intern, 1 at Starshine, our hospice division, and then 2 with College Hill or mental health. So yeah, we've got quite a few right now.
Wow, that's really impressive. So cool. Well, I'm excited to dig into these questions and see what you think about medical music therapy. How long have you been practicing at Cincinnati Children's?
I started officially as a board certified therapist February 2017, but I was the intern at Cincinnati Children's before that. So I've been here since July of 2016.
Wow,
Yeah.
Cool. I'm sure things haven't changed for you at all in those 4 years, especially with the pandemic going on.
Oh, man.
So why did you decide to pursue medical music therapy?
Yeah, it was kind of a carryover from my previous career goal. Back in the day, I wanted to become a pediatrician. So after I had that juncture in my life where I switched paths to music therapy, which I think was one of the best decisions of my entire life, I still very much had that passion and desire to work in the medical setting. So it just kind of passed through, and especially seeing that there were opportunities for music therapists to work in medical settings was like I think that's what I want.
That is so cool. So from pediatrician to medical music therapy. I love that. So who are your biggest music therapy supporters that got you where you are today? I feel like we're such a big, small family of music therapy colleagues, and I just love to hear who supported you and who kind of helped you along the way.
Yeah. Before, and she has the biggest I told you so of all time. I have 3 older sisters. One of my sisters, Becky, has been telling me about the field of music therapy since I was an undergrad at IU. So before the music therapy stuff, honestly, way back when. 2006. She was like, "You need to become a music therapist," and I was just never I was never thinking it was going to be me. I'm like, it's like, yeah, they sing, they play the guitar, and it's not this weird. It's not for me yet. So I was a big fan of the field before, but she kept on bringing it back, saying like, I really think you need to check this out. And it was at that aforementioned juncture, 2013-ish, when I was looking forward. Okay, what's the new career goal? What do I want to do? Because it's no longer medicine. Where she said one more time, like, Nathan, I'm telling you, the music therapy. I fell in love with the career in the field I had to. So she definitely, that repeated exposure definitely helped plant that seed. And then during undergrad, and even, for us, I'm Sharon Boyle. She was one of my main professors at the Woods. One of the biggest encouragers and hardest teachers and most loving supporters. I mean, everything, wearing all those hats. Because here comes this random guy to a primarily all women's college at the time, wanting to do therapy. It was a little different, and she did not let that stop anything, and she answered the millions of questions I had for her, and was just nothing but supportive, and a wonderful mentor and teacher, now wonderful colleague, and wonderful friend. But she was definitely a massive part of that journey as well. Yeah.
That's so cool. I think it's so interesting to hear how people find music therapy. I found it on a career aptitude test of all places, but then people know about it like in all these different ways. I think is so cool. And Sharon, I will say, is super hard in the best way. And I will everything you said. She's awesome
in the absolute best way. And then of course, I also got to give the due to the supervisors I had during my time as an intern. Deborah Bankovitz and Beth Harmon, Jen Seeley, and Caleb and Brian. And some of them I had for only like 1 month, and some I had for the full 6-month stretch. But every single one of them, especially with undergrads, not quite fully knowing how medical music therapy works. So you indirectly, subconsciously shape what you're going to do based off of what you see. And I think that they were all very instrumental in helping to show me what this world looked like, and also to still lift up and celebrate the skills you had and to bring it forth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And what a team. Like, you were listing out those people. I'm like, yep,
Mm-hmm.
That is too cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So if you were talking a little bit about students, and I loved the way that you said that as far as like kind of showing you that world, but also lifting up the skills that you did have. And I know that you mentor students now and you teach at St. Mary's. So I'm really excited to hear what if you could give your past student self a piece of advice, what do you think that would be?
Oh, gosh. I feel like I would tell my past student self, he'd be very frustrated by it, but I would tell him, the more you learn, the more you're going to realize you don't know.
Yes.
Oh, man. It's so frustrating in a beautiful way, but I feel like, we both did the same master's degree. I feel like at the end of that program, this strange juxtaposition of feeling so accomplished and yet realizing, wow, I actually don't know anything. There's so much more to learn.
It's so true. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you look up to your parents and you're like, someday I'm going to like know everything. And I remember like coming to them and being like, when I have my master's, I'm going to like know everything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I know nothing. That's a good piece of advice too, because I think that keeps you like hungry for learning new things and also being okay with you don't have to know everything to be a good therapist. I love that. So what was the hardest part about your first year as a medical music therapist?
Ooh, yeah. For me, the hardest part was the transition from intern to professional, So like I said, I had the blessing to get hired post internship, after internship and everything, and got to keep working here and everything. But it was a hard transition for me because it was like, okay, I'm now professional. I'm now getting paid to do this stuff. and I will soon be not supervising yet, but probably doing some sort of interaction with our new interns, and I'm no longer in that spot. And I need to feel empowered enough to know that I am a board certified music therapist, but also to acknowledge that I'm a first year professional and all these other weird feelings. So I think that transition was pretty difficult for me, just mentally. You know, every single day, it was just kind of like, oh right, that was then, and this is now, and you know, so many families and patients that I continue to work with are like, wait, your internship's going on for such a long time, or like, oh wait, I didn't even know you were an intern at some point. We've only known you as this, and so all of that stuff.
Yeah, I've never even thought of that because I really wanted to stay out on my internship. They didn't have anything available at the time, but you know, you get to know these families and introduce yourself as a student. And I'm assuming with staff too, right? Like you get to know like certain nurses or people, and how do you kind of navigate that space where, you know, there was that divide for a while, and then like being confident as this clinician when that was still the space that you're in. That's so interesting. Do you feel like your relationships kind of like changed with your like music therapy team through that space?
You know, yes and no. I had nothing but respect for that team of supervisors when I was going through the internship process, and they were very professional and making me feel welcomed, but also knowing like there is a differential. You are an intern and we are board certified, as there should be.
Right.
You know, and as I like to encourage with current interns now to know that exists. But that being said, they themselves, the music therapy team, that was like the easiest part. They're like, oh, we already know Nate. Nate's back. Now, you know, we get to keep him. He's going to be doing this and everything. They were the easy part of that equation, knowing that they were just going to be supportive. And ultimately, what I love about my team most at Cincinnati Children's is that we all just are very goal oriented. Like once we see whether it's a project or something like or a problem, we just kind of look at it head on. It's like, okay, what have we got to do to handle it? What have we got to change to make this happen? And we just do it. And I love that, you know, about the team throughout. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. And I think teams are so underrated. I think that's what I kind of started this website and like reach out to new music therapists, because I think so frequently, you know, we go from like having this support and this team, and then we're like on our own somewhere. So I know not everybody has that background as far as like working on a team. And if they were going to go from working on their own to a team, do you have a piece of advice that you'd pass along as far as working as a music therapist on a larger team?
Yeah. I would say if you're going to go from being on your own to on a team, you just have to be willing to acknowledge that, you know, you don't want a team. You don't want 5 separate yourselves. You know, that's not a strong team. That's not a well-rounded team. You want, hopefully, to celebrate each other's differences. You know, my team, we did a CMTE earlier this year, and we'll do another one next year, all about how we have these very different approaches and orientations in our work and these backgrounds. And rather than looking at, I feel like some teams, music therapy or otherwise, would be like, well, I can't believe they do this, and I can't believe they do this. And rather, instead, how we're like, that's awesome, let's celebrate that. We've got, you know, someone focusing on the NMT thing, we got someone focusing on the improv thing, and someone focused on the resource-oriented thing, and like that we can keep on celebrating and pulling from those different approaches, because we have people on the team that are really great with those things. So, yeah.
I think that was like so beautifully said too, because I try to tell my interns, you know, I'm providing you one way of doing this, you know, my way is not like, I don't want you to come out of your internship and be like a mini Amy and like do things and think the way that I would. Like, I want to empower you to decide what is a passion for you and how you think music therapy should be in this context. Right. And if we had like 5 Nates, I mean, that sounds cool for sure to me.
Way too many Nates.
But, you know, like you said, like you're going to have all of these patients who are coming with different life stories and different needs. And, you know, I work with a girl, her name is Celeste, and she's kind of my, I call work wife, and it's our team of 2. But, you know, she speaks fluent Spanish, like, and I can say like 5 words in Spanish consistently. So, you know, there might be patients who benefit more from seeing Celeste because that's a strength of hers. And I think celebrating those is super important and just like gives you life in a team.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, very cool. So one thing that I kind of found crazy when I went from being a student, right? Like you're doing 1 hour of clinical work per semester, like for a week, you know, to going and doing this for 40 hours a week is, you know, if you want to be a medical music therapist, you're not just at the bedside doing music therapy sessions all day, although that would be amazing. I would love if that was my job. But is there one task that you find yourself doing a lot at work that you never thought would be a part of work for you?
Oh, see, man, I've never heard that. That's such a great question. I don't think I expected to, you know, you read about it in books, you know, all of the various, like they say, like, be prepared to wear the many different hats of the music therapist. But I think until you're doing it, you're not fully believing it.
Right.
And then it happens, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, I guess, you know, this is what we've got going on. I'd say for me, it's just the different music responsibilities / things I've signed up for and that I love that have kind of come up. You know, you mentioned in the intro, whether it's the playing music for Service of Remembrances, you know, funeral types, or getting to work with the choir and the employee choir members here and everything, or just different collaborating projects. There's a program called Dog Tales with Chevy where one of the child life specialists reads books, different themes every single week to the kids and teens in the hospital. It's awesome, and I'm always like, "What books are you going to read?" And I'm into it. And once a month, she has me just come on and help along by providing some music and doing some songs and stuff. I'm like, I didn't think that was ever going to be a thing, you know, like, so it's just really cool that there's so many different opportunities. I did not expect any of those things.
Yeah. And I think because music is so versatile, you find yourself being called for lots of those. I know when I was on a team of 1, I had to like really parse out like, okay, music could be at literally everything, but like these ones give me life and these ones are important. Yes. So that sounds so fun. I'm going to come join you guys for story time.
Yeah.
More story time in my life. So if you were a patient undergoing, because I know you work with some of the kids in like the CICU. So if you were a patient who was undergoing long-term hospitalization, how do you think you would handle the experience?
I laugh because I always tell people, especially after I work with resilient patients, and basically all of them are so much more resilient than I am. I always find myself going like, man, I don't think I'd handle this as well as they're handling this. You know, these are individuals who are at the bottom points of their lives, very, very sick, not knowing how things are going to turn out, and often still acting with such humanity, both patients and these families. So I think that if this were years ago, before I came here, I'd probably be like a, woe is me, I can't believe I'm here type of whatever. I think now, having witnessed some of what could be the worst of someone's life and the worst things that can happen, I think that there would be a great deal of humility. Is what I would try to go for. You know, I think that honestly, if I were stuck in the hospital setting, I think I would tell someone, all right, please bring me my Nintendo Switch. Please bring me a guitar. And I think, and also, does the TV work? It does, great. Okay, I think we're gonna be okay. And
I'll do this.
And then I just need my phone to call and text friends and family and stuff, and just kind of to hang in there, you know. I have not been in a hospital overnight. In a very, very long time. But the last time I was in the hospital, last couple of times I did try to remember that actually. So it's kind of funny you're asking now, where I'm like, I need to remember, like, hey, remember these people. This is what they do, and it's so wonderful being on the other side of things to kind of see this humanity that these healthcare workers in different hospitals give. So cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I agree on the Switch. I recently got into that, and I played Luigi's Mansion with my husband, and like,
yes,
the bomb. So if I go in the hospital, I'm bringing that too. So we already have like a million questions, and I'm so excited about them. They're just bump, 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 bump. So I'm excited about that. But I think this is going to play into some of the questions we're getting, because we have a lot of interested students. So what are 3 qualities that you think are necessary for someone who's interested in being a medical music therapist?
Oh, okay. That is fantastic. A high level of, actually I won't even say high level, a strong level of musicality, because I think that in our field in general, you know, try to be the best musician you can.
Yes.
But especially in a medical setting, where you're going to be working with patients from very different walks of life, different ages, all across the world, different cultures, means very different musical tastes that we just have to be prepared for. There is no, I don't like rap, country, and metal, so I'm not going to play that. No, you're gonna play them.
You're gonna play it.
Yeah, you're gonna play them. So no excuses. So just a strong level of musicality, both in the awareness of different genres and in skills, and being ready to build upon that. A sense of humor. I got that one. I borrowed that one from Sharon when, you know, with a good level, good qualities of a music therapist, because wacky things happen.
Yes.
So many wacky things happen amongst even the serious stuff. There's so many wacky things, and I think that you need to be okay with things going wrong and to laugh at it sometimes, because it is kind of funny. I remember one session in particular, I was singing, not in the hospitals, it was in a practicum, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles, an old school, Pretty Bubbles in the Sky, and we were doing balloons with the elderly with dementia and Alzheimer's in these balloons, and all of a sudden this balloon flows a little higher, and it pops, and right at the lyric,
die one.
Yes, right at just like my dreams, they fade and die, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Visual symbolism.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and I think you just kind of have to laugh at that ridiculousness. So, and then I think the third quality, empathy, because you're gonna any setting, but you know, yet again, especially for medical, to be able to try to understand what it is like for these individuals going through what they're going through, and to think of the worst day you've had, and imagine not being able to change the channel off that worst day, and you know, it's real tough. It's real tough. So I think the empathy is pretty big. So yeah, musicality, empathy, and humor. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those. I've never heard humor as one, but I think that's so true. And I really like the musicality one. I have a great example. I think yesterday I had a 5-year-old come for a session, and it was a new assessment. And, you know, you think 5-year-old, you think a certain thing. You shouldn't. But and so my interns were with me, and the dad was like, oh yeah, he likes Lamb of God and Corn. And like, I was like, oh, and like, I do love metal. So I was like, cool. Yes. But like, you never know. Like, even if it's a 5-year-old or a 16-year-old or whatever, like, people have all kinds of musical taste.
Yep, you never know.
So Mariel did our last medical rounds with music therapists, and she is on. And this pulls into our next question. So I'm going to ask it on her way. So she said, how do you triage your caseload? We'll ask the rest of her question later at the end of this.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you prioritize your caseload?
Yeah. Prioritizing can be difficult. For me personally, I always look at highest priority needs, meaning someone that is actively in pain. So there's that. End of life situations will always trump everything else. But if they're high levels of pain, or if they are in if they have a depressed or otherwise mentally ill, there's strong things manifesting, and you feel like that is something that could, if not addressed, unfortunately, like lead to, I don't know, suicide or self-harm or something. That is also going to be someone I'm going to place pretty high. Then, you'll go to things like people who are isolated. So the potential for the depression is there. People who aren't coping well with things. And, so on. And I'd say typically it also varies too, because, with my units, for example, surgery, a lot of times those patients I will only see 1 or 2 times. They just had their surgery and they're in a lot of pain, and I need to go in there and see what I can do. And then you have your pulmonary patients who know that their life, especially if they have cystic fibrosis, is here for a week, gone for 5 or 6 weeks, here for a week, so on and so on. So maybe not the highest priority, but still a priority to make sure I keep on seeing them, to keep on building that rapport. And then the cardio patients, mixed bag, because some of them are there for months waiting on a heart transplant, some coping well with the wait, the uncertainty, and some like, this is terrible, get me out of here, I hate this, and little bundles of sunshine who are now swearing and yelling at people and throwing things, and it's like, I feel like I should probably hang out with you right now, like today. Yeah, a lot of it changes in the moment. And of course, if there are nurses, child life specialists, whoever, who will message or text me for saying like, oh, hey, this patient asking right now for therapy because of blank reason, that can often be a priority as well, depending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you bring a good point as far as you are managing so many different units. So it's not even like you're doing that kind of thought in your head with one unit, but then you're, I'm sure, prioritizing different units based on what's going on. And it's such a hard thing, I think, sometimes, especially when there's so many people that could benefit. Sometimes I wish I just had like a schedule in the beginning of the day that was like, this is what you're supposed to do, right? So yeah, I think that's great. So tell me, I don't think this has ever happened to you. It's definitely never happened to me. About a session that didn't go the way you planned and what you learned from it.
I see your sarcasm. I was like, I'm so interested by this question. Got it. Got it. Yeah. I had so there, we always try to go with the whole, like, whatever the patient likes, music-wise, or, and even outside of music, whatever they try to bring that into the session that we all, know and love. But sometimes the patient doesn't answer you, and sometimes they don't give you anything to work with, and the parents don't give you anything to work with either. So I had a patient who really, really loved a certain type of, I won't say what type of emoji it was, but there's a certain type of emoji of the poop variety, and I noticed that these emojis were over like everything. So like pillows and balloons and cupcakes and blankets. I mean, like this was the pattern.
This was the thing.
Yeah. So I was co-treating with the child life specialist, and we got pretty creative with the ways with which we incorporated those emojis into the session. I think there might be even a video out there of it somewhere, but we ended up doing like this poop emoji Olympics type thing, where we had to like put the emoji on an egg shaker and like wrap it in toilet paper and toss it in a bedpan and spin the flush and all of this other cool stuff. And that started off with just us doing it, because for the patient, you know, and all the fun, goal oriented, right? The patient we were having are working on active engagement. So what a funny way to work on that, and all this stuff, and working your way down the hallway. But then I have no shame, so anyone who's walking by, I just pull them into this thing, and suddenly we're all just like messing with these, you know, this pretending egg shakers are poop and all these other things. And what I learned about that is that you just never know. You just don't know what you're gonna be working with. And you can't assume music therapy in the traditional sense of walking in, guitar, here are your instruments, let's play. Sometimes it is oh, hey, we're co-treating, so the active engagement is the most important thing, but we are tying in music therapy and child life, and we are getting you physically active using these musical things. And so it's not at the forefront, but it still is happening. So yeah, you just never know.
Yeah, and I think that's another great point. Like you never really know, even if you've done chart review that morning on what's going on with the patient. And that's why I say, at least for me, I don't do traditional session plans for like things, because God, I would never have time to do anything else if I was doing session plans for all of these. So you have like a bank of maybe experiences that you've used before, or and like you said, having a really good repertoire, I think, is really important, and being confident in your musical skills, because that's kind of what I lean on more than like a traditional, like, first we're going to go into the room and we're going to play the hello song, and then we're going to do these 3 interventions, and you have to do things exactly the way I want them. So yeah, I think that I would love to do poop Olympics. That's
yeah.
So what is a common misconception about your work?
That it is that music therapy is always fun. And I feel like, I'm not sure how many people are watching because I can't see, but I feel like all of us simultaneously got triggered by that phrase. Where it's like, yeah, people, I think a lot of times when I'm being introduced to patients, if it's through social workers or nurses or whoever, and they're like, oh, this is Nate, he's a music therapist, you're gonna have so much fun with him. Or like, hey, like, Nate's gonna come in, you guys are gonna sing songs together. And I'm thinking, like, I mean, maybe we might. I hope it's fun, but maybe it won't be. I think that therapy is hard, and we are therapists. You know, we're not fun therapists, we're music therapists. And we know that music is not just happy all the time. There are these wonderful moods that we collect in music. So thus, one would assume that music therapy is not fun all the time. And yet so many non-music therapists assume that.
Yeah. And I've gotten the, like, I wish I was a music therapist instead of insert whatever the job is here, because
Yeah.
it's more fun. And it's like, well, sometimes I wish I was a nurse and I had like a consistent thing I knew I was going to do all day, or I wish I was, I don't know, really, they all sound fun to me. But yeah, I think that that's such a good point. And therapy is hard work, and it's not always just coming in and playing music. So I think that I feel that on an existential level. So what, I know you're involved in all kinds of stuff. I like, my head spun just reading all the things that you've been involved in. So what type of music therapy interactions are you most passionate about?
For me personally, it's a two-way tie between improvising. I just love improvising. I think that it is the most authentic way with which you get to meet someone on an audio level. You know, when you're whether you're playing, singing, whatever, you're being yourself. You know, even if you're trying to hide it, you are being yourself, hiding yourself, or you're hiding yourself, being yourself. Either way, you're still you. So it's like, what a cool way to meet and interact and to keep on learning new things about each other, where you are at through this media, which sometimes has words, sometimes doesn't have words, and there are just no rules, and you're just letting the music happen, and sometimes you're processing it verbally, and sometimes you're just going to let it be because you both understood what just happened, and you don't even need to quantify it. So those, and then also, whenever I get to learn what patients love music-wise, especially if it's a shared interest, you know, it doesn't have to be shared. You know, I love learning about new bands and artists from my patients. If I've never heard of them, like, great, well, let's learn and let's figure it out and let's do it. But when you both are on the same page of like, you know about that super random band? I know about this super random. Oh man, like let's get down with Like last week, it was a patient who really liked Crush 40, which is this like hard rock band. They specifically did a lot of songs back in the day when Sonic the Hedgehog was still really popular, like in his video games and stuff. And they did like a ton of like hard rock songs with him, and I love that stuff. And I had a patient that was his stuff. I'm like, sweet, this is gonna be great.
Don't you love that though? Like my favorite artist is Sufjan Stevens, and like one patient was like, "This is my favorite," and I was like, "Let's sit down and talk about everything about it."
Yes, yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to connect with people about music. Absolutely. So tell me about a patient or a patient interaction that changed your practice.
Okay.
Not hard at all.
Not hard at all. We're going to go with a patient I'm going to call Will. That is not actually his name, but we're going to go with Will. Yeah. So I met Will. He was 17, and he is someone who had previous history making music. He is when I met him on one of the oncology units, and he was talking about how he liked to write music, but he never like recorded. He never did anything with it. And I was like, okay, well, and he was one of the few patients who I knew I was consistently going to see like once a week, every single blank on this point of day. So it's like, I will see you for the next 12-ish weeks. We know this is happening, which allowed us to actually plan ahead. And I said, Will, like, let's get you recording. Let's do this. Let's see what happens. And he had so many songs. Like, he had this notebook, and in this notebook had all these chords and songs and things ready to go. So I brought the recording stuff, and foolish younger me, I just assumed like, oh yeah, like we're both gonna record, or like maybe he needs me to record some stuff that he's done and maybe he can't do it. Like I said, foolishly assuming. No. Great guitar chops. He had it. Great voice. He had it there and everything. My role in that session was as a producer or audio engineer type, recording and finding ways to connect this musical vision. He's like, oh, I think there needs to be this bass here. I think there needs to be this guitar here. And I think there needs to be this drum here, and recording. So at first I'm thinking, okay, am I still a therapist if all I'm doing is hitting the record button and saying, you're doing great, and hitting pause at the end, right? It was through multiple sessions specifically that I learned, let's take it back to the lit, right? Music therapists, you take on different roles depending on the interest of your patient, right? That's literally, it's in the books. So as weird as it can be. So that means that if a patient wants to learn a new instrument, you are in that educational role. And if a patient is religious, you might take on a more pastoral role as a music therapist, first and foremost, but still tying into almost a worship service. So it would thus make sense for this patient who is recording music where I was not playing, that I would be in this audio engineer role and producer role, trying the musical vision together, and to ask him questions that he had not even considered about his own music, and to build our relationship through the music he was recording. Changed me forever, because it made me realize that sometimes, how it sounds so backwards, sometimes I can have the best sessions won't involve me playing a single note.
Yes.
So weird. And it's so weird. And it's one of those things where I know you understand. But especially as a younger student, you're like, I don't buy that though. Like, why else am I learning all these songs? You know? But sometimes when those stars align, it's like, hey, I'm your therapeutic support. I'm here. I am helping mixing and mastering these levels, and I'm using my proficiency in different ways because you've got this covered. You don't need another person playing guitar with you. At that point, it would be about me. This is about you, and you're working on this, and this is your normalizing. This is your project that's going to help promote your normalization through this very difficult stay. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's like the goal too, right? Like, we don't want people to just be able to tap into music when we're around. Like, we want to empower them to have those skills outside of their once a week session.
Yes. Yes. Man, yeah, you said it. You said it so well, because plot twist to all of us, our patients are going to engage with music whether we're there or not.
Bang!
Yeah, I know. Bang. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good lesson, and it looks so different on any day, right? Like, sometimes it's the dad playing guitar for his baby and us just encouraging that, or being the producer and just saying, "You're doing great," you know? So I've been there too.
Yeah.
Good job. Keep going.
Yes.
So how do you keep yourself grounded, or what's a way you practice self-care?
Yeah, a few different things for me. So I'm a Christian, so my faith is huge to me. So a ton of prayer and Bible reading to connect with these things that, to my belief system, things that have been said eons ago that the creator of the universe is saying, right? And all these wonderful pieces of advice, like that book. I mean, like, there's always something in there to discover, right? So even if you read it before. So for me, that's huge to stay grounded. Self-care wise, it was one presentation. I had this little graphic that had like a Dragon Ball Z character and gummies, and it was like, yeah, anime is, you know, watching anime, you know, and eating gummies or, you know, junk food. And I think for me, when I'm watching like movies and TV shows and stuff, I get enough real world when I'm here, you know, and in the real world. Yes. I want to engage with something as ridiculous and as fake as possible, which means the dudes who are screaming and their hair turning gold, and then suddenly fireballs are coming out and they're flying around and they're punching people so hard that they fly through mountains and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this seems ridiculous and on par, so sign me up. Yeah. So for me, those are always really, really great. And then I feel really blessed to have lots of awesome friends and family members. So talking with them. My fiance is wonderful support, and that she's always just very self-aware. She's like, I don't fully get your world, but I am here to listen. Like,
that's like the perfect thing to say.
This is why I'm married her. You know, yeah.
Fiance.
And my family is just so great. They have got to be some of the nicest people on the planet. And then my friends who just accept me for all of my super weird quirks, because I'm a weird guy. And for some reason, they keep on wanting to hang out with me. So I think that often just having a conversation, like calling someone up and be like, hey, remember that that time we did like the random like blah de blah, and then we're just goofing off about that, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I'm excited for your upcoming nuptials as well.
Thanks.
It's just good to have things, like you said, like people and things outside of work. My husband recently asked me if I'd watch Breaking Bad with him. He was going to rewatch it. And I was like, I have a stressful day, like, experience for me and cancer. I don't need like Breaking Bad kind of stuff in my life. I'm going to watch like something ridiculous, like New Girl.
Yeah.
So with that, what does advocacy look like to you?
You have some really good questions.
Thank you.
Like some good and not good as in like, this is a good question, but good as in thought-provoking, meaning.
Yeah.
Question.
I want to hear from different people.
Yeah. To me, advocacy in the music therapy field is continuing to show others that music therapy can look very, very different from the bread and butter of, you know, like as I mentioned, having a guitar, hear your instruments, and sing a song. Don't get me wrong. You know, let's not get it twisted. I love those sessions.
That can happen.
I live for those sessions where it's like, we're just making music. We're having a blast. We're singing this. We're singing Can't Stop the Feeling together. And just being happy, you know, and loving that moment. You know, I love that. But that being said, music therapy can look so different and is going to continue to look very different. And I think that if we just go back to the, we'll get like a little educational for a second. If we go back to the definition that we all follow, clinical and evidence-based, and we're board certified and helping, you know, others work on goals and objectives. If you're filling those check boxes, then why can't it look drastically different? And I think some music therapists were very ahead of the curve. I was just reading Gary Ansell's community music therapy stuff that he wrote, like, I feel like 15 plus years ago. And I'm like, oh man, I am feeling all of this right now. You wrote this over a decade ago. So I'm just catching up. But
yeah,
it means that especially in this COVID age where many of us haven't been able to see patients in person, like, hey, you can still be a music therapist and you still are, and music therapy is still going to happen. It's going to look different. And there are so many different ways with which you can achieve that. And if you don't have to believe me, who's only been in this field for 3 to 4 years, but if you open up some books, you'll see it's all right there. It's all right there.
Yeah. I love that. And that's such a good way of saying it too. I think COVID has really shown us that it's not just right in person at the bedside or wherever in a group playing music. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to ask you this question. This is a new one. I'm refining these questions.
Ooh, cool.
Well, I know you're not very busy at work. So if you could take on a new project, what do you think it would be?
Oh my gosh.
If you had time or any semblance of it.
Yeah. A new project that will work. I feel lucky that right now, I mean, anything that I would like to be engaged in, I am. You know,
That's amazing.
You know, I did not expect that a strong passion spot for me would be acting as an artistic choir director for employees who all just love to sing, whether they've done it formally or not. But it is literally what I look for, and it's the thing I look forward to like most every single week, outside of the sessions and everything. Like, this is going to be great. I'm just going to hang out with these individuals, and we're just going to make music. And it's on Zoom nowadays, so virtual singing.
That is so cool.
And another thing I really love is anytime I get to teach anything, teach or instruct on anything. So honestly, the period of time in which I am most productive is when we have our intern around, because I often want to show them as much as possible. So it's like, it means I'm doing more. But if I could be engaged in any project at all, I think, you know what? I literally just came up with it.
Now it has come.
Maybe like a similar spin off of the choir thing. So the choir, the primary purposes are to promote joy in the workplace and reduce burnout, and to engage in self-care through music at work. It would be cool if there were like individuals, employees or patients, whoever, who formally wanted to learn how to play instruments. So you've got like lessons going on, and then you put them like together in bands, maybe.
That would be cool.
So then like people would be, learning those instruments in cool ways, and not like, no offense to scales and the old piano stuff that we all know, but like formally like, no, here's how to do the Smoke on the Water riff on guitar. Here's how to play Smells Like Teen Spirit. And then like put them together, people, and give them that chance. If it was with staff members, I think it would be for the self-care thing, for their own musicality. And if it were for patients, to be giving them that opportunity to perform, especially if they're stuck in the hospital. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it more, like,
I'm gonna give you more projects.
Yeah, because many patients you see in the hospital, right, are musicians, and they're being deprived of these opportunities. So it's like, I go in and we, the music therapists, can make music with them, sure, but how much cooler would it be if they still got that group music making and formally, and what the setting they're most accustomed, whether that be like a chamber ensemble or a rock band or an mini orchestra and anything in between. Sorry, I rambled, but I was like,
I see the light in his eyes. No, I mean, that sounds sweet. And I think that shows too. And I remember when I first started as a music therapist, I was so protective of music therapy, where I was like, we are the only ones who should be playing music in the hospital. Like, that's the job. And how quickly I learned, like, really, that's not, like, we don't own music, and we should be spreading that and encouraging that. Whether like we have like some doctors who go around at Christmas time and sing carols, and that like brings them a lot of joy and brings the patients a lot of joy. Like you said, like pulling those people together and making connections through music, I think would be super cool, is super cool. So what inspires you to continue coming to work and being a medical music therapist?
I think what inspires me is whenever I encounter a music therapist who is, I won't really believe in the concept of worse or better, but I will say if I see a music therapist doing something I had not thought of, or is so impressive with a certain skill, then I'm like, ooh, very clearly I am now missing out on this. I want to achieve that, or at least get close to achieving that. I had a lot of very awesome individuals in my grad school program. And without mentioning names, I had someone who she used her horn in sessions a lot. And I'm a trumpet player first and foremost, but I don't really use the trumpet here in these hospital walls. But I still remember thinking like, man, how cool that this individual has like the courage and the creativity to do that. And it was kind of a turning point where, even though my trumpet can't be in patient rooms, I did start thinking of different ways I could incorporate it into my practice, even if it's not in formal sessions. Had an individual who was just an absolute monster, improvising on any instrument. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. And then had a dear friend and colleague who I always call her the piano goddess, because she just like,
I know who you're talking
about. Yeah, I bet you do. Take the simplest piece of music, piano-wise, and just make it sound beautiful. And you see her connection with every piece, from something as simple as You Are My Sunshine to something as complicated as Bohemian Rhapsody and everything in between, and squeezing the musicality of it. And so when I watch these individuals that are around my age, especially, I'm so much more inspired and driven. I'm like, what does King Louis say in the Jungle Book? Ooby-doo, I want to be like you. Right.
I love that. Yeah. So like pulling from each other. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you hope the future will look like for medical music therapy? Again, very big, broad question.
Yes, very, very big, very broad. I thought it was very cool I'm not sure how many years ago, when I saw that there was the article about how the top 10 pediatric hospitals in the nation all had at least one music therapist. And I'm just like, it's like, oh, well, yeah. I would love medical music therapy to continue growing. And I think to continue being held at the high level, of which we all hold ourselves. I don't believe in the hierarchy of saying that these populations are harder than these, but I will say medical music therapy is a very difficult and unique world. Yeah. And as I don't think I could work with every population, some individuals would probably not flourish well in ours. Yeah. But I would love it to continue growing, and I would love us to continue showing our creativity. I don't think we're in danger of it yet, but I think the worst thing that could happen is if we all collectively were like, well, we've done everything there is to do musically.
We've done it, guys.
And to not bring something, I think it'd be really, really bad if, the next Brian Shrek type comes along with something like a heartbeat recording, and we're all haughty-toddy and thinking like, but we've never done that before, and it's been working fine, so let's not. I never want us to get there. I want us to keep on finding these new awesome things and ways to bring this in, because we have to remember, at some point in time, all of this was brand new. Thinking of how to use classical music examples through guided imagery was new and radical. Bringing anything beyond classical improvisation into an improv realm was radical. And thinking about music therapy in a biomedical model was rad. All of these things were at some point new. And now we just know it and we just do it. So continue growing, continue learning.
I love it. So I want to be mindful of your time. Do you have a few minutes for questions?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have a bunch, and I'm going to try to pull through the ones that we didn't answer so much in the questions we've already done.
Okay.
But I first want to thank everybody because we have tons of questions. So thanks for using up some of Nathan's time, because I'm interested in hearing these as well. So Olivia asks, what has been the trickiest part of working in the medical setting?
The trickiest part, honestly, and I've been honest with everything else, so I got to continue to be honest. It's witnessing the pain and the suffering of these patients. The patients if you're in the hospital, it means things are not going well with your body. If you're here, it means things really aren't going well. So we see these individuals in pain, passively, actively. We see them at the hitting rock bottom. We see them suffering. And that's really, really difficult for me. I think that word suffering, where you are watching an individual and you're seeing them having the worst time. And sometimes, most of the times, I like to think music therapy does great. And honestly, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
We have superpowers of awesomeness, but we can't be, it's not going to work every single time, perhaps. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm the outlier, and maybe you all have perfect sessions.
No, I do not. And I think, too, like you're saying, like it's those sometimes I come in with expectations of how things are going to go, and then, I go for a port access and it goes terribly, and I feel you.
So it's getting back up again amongst all of this and not letting it keep you down. It's okay to be down. It's a hard gig. It's a hard gig, and if you didn't get down, I'd be like, let's talk about it. Yeah, but you got to get back up every single time.
Absolutely. I love that. Austin, this goes really well with that. Austin asked, sorry to be a downer. I don't think you're being a downer, first of all. But what did you learn from your first or any pediatric death?
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's a great question.
It's a good question.
Not to be a downer at all, because patients die a lot. I have lost so many patients here. What I learned is that from the first one, is that you never forget that feeling. I remember exactly walking in and opening my computer and seeing that this individual I'd known had died, and being talked to by one of my supervisors who kind of coached me through things. I also very much remember the first time I was in the room providing music as the patient died. So you never forget those moments, and you tap into what that felt like, as hard as it is. And you really give yourself that space to think about this. Like, this is not like someone stubbed their toe. Someone died. Someone lost their life. Yeah. They are ceasing to exist on this planet. This individual knew probably quite a few people who have all been impacted by them no longer being here. That's real heavy. That's real heavy stuff. So just giving yourself that permission to continue thinking about it and exploring that, and talking about it with those who you trust in appropriate settings. It's why supervision and counseling and therapy for us is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a couple questions as far as what music tools or instruments do you use the most, and why?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think guitar, just because it's the most, I've kind of grown attached to it. When I left the woods,
so portable. When
I left the woods as an undergrad, if someone would have said, "Are you more of a singing guitarist or singing pianist?" I probably would have said singing pianist. But over time, guitar is kind of assimilated with my core. Like we're like this now. So, but that being said, I still use the portable keys quite a bit. I still use ukulele quite a bit. I like to tap into the instrument we all have with us, our voice, meaning that sometimes not singing, but between singing, scatting, and rapping, we've got a lot we can do with this thing. And then also, one I did not think I was going to really engage a lot with, GarageBand on my Mac. I used to think this is the hardest software in the world. I'm never going to use this. I need to just learn how to use this for internship, and I'm going to be done with it forever. And now I'm like, I love these recording projects. I love the ability to plug in a synth into GarageBand and show a patient like, oh, all you can do is play these two notes? Well, great. What if we put a beat with these two notes? What if we put an arpeggiator with these two notes? What if we add these effects to these two notes? What if we had whatever these two notes? Like we can make a song, a full song out of these two notes. There's so much we can do. So GarageBand is a great tool. I really love using that one a lot.
I love that. You seem to use technology really well. I always feel like I need to keep working on it. I love it, but there's always so many new things to learn. So there's a couple questions about technology. Sarah asked an interesting question. If you align with a theoretical orientation, and how does this manifest itself in your practice? Yeah,
I at this point, because I realize we are evolving human beings and we just keep on, it can change. I find myself pulling from a lot of different approaches depending on who I'm seeing.
Yes.
Which I think Amy can resonate with. Yeah. But that being said, first and foremost, I consider myself music-centered, which is a misconception that to be music-centered, you have to be Nordhoff Robbins, and that's just simply not true. I know quite a few music therapists who we would consider ourselves music-centered, and that doesn't have to mean improvisation-based. It just means that first and foremost, I believe that music is the co-therapist in the sessions, and that music is the primary driving force behind everything, and that there's meaning in literally every single musical interaction. Is the way they're playing the egg shaker, the choice of the instrument, if they're improvising and they do have the music therapy knowledge, why they keep on dodging around this certain section or why they gravitate towards certain things. The fact that I just changed from Lydian to Mixolydian and all of a sudden they look like they're about to cry. All of that stuff, is really what I gravitate towards most, I'd say.
Very cool. So there was a question about, sorry, I'm pulling through all of these.
No, it's all good.
There is a couple people. One is starting her internship on Monday. Congratulations, Paulina.
Congrats.
And another who is very interested in Cincinnati Children's for her internship. Are there any pieces of advice that you would give to prospective interns or music therapy interns?
Yes. One, we know it's hard. And I think that, all the supervisors, you might think that we are untouchable and perfect. We are not. Mm-hmm. We make a ton of mistakes. We've just learned how to make fewer, and with time,
more gracefully.
and to fake them more gracefully. We are not invincible, and we are not untouchable. And we know it's hard, meaning that we're going to push you only because we want you to be the best. Like, if I'm working with our current intern, whoever, or past interns, it is a disservice if I see something that they could have improved on. I'm going to comment on it. Absolutely. I'm gonna be happy about what they did well, but I'm also going to say, hey, also consider this. And they're going to be like, dang it, why couldn't you just let me have it? But like, yeah, consider this, because like we want you to leave golden and shiny, not just like a little coppery and a little dull, like technically shiny, but not shiny enough. So know that we are, we're trying our best to instill what we've learned in you. And that first, it's going to seem like we're saying everything that you're doing is wrong, but you will learn that is simply us saying, much like undergrad, here's how we do it. Once you get to the level of blank, great. Now it's time to start doing it like you, but to remember everything you've learned.
Easy, right?
Piece of cake.
And I'll say too, they ask what they could do to stand out on their application. And for me, at least, I'll say, make sure you proofread things, make sure you really answer the questions. I really am a big stickler for detail. So if I say like, mail this or email this or whatever I've said, like, I want to make sure that you can follow those directions because attention to detail is important to me.
Yeah.
It's important in my work. I don't know if you have anything else that you would add as far as
it's
getting
kind of
ready to apply.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And it's kind of a, my answer is kind of a rebuttal too. Give us, I dare you to dare us to not hire you. Like, your application should be so good with no weak spots that we will feel like we are losing out if we don't take you. Mm-hmm. So any potential weak spot you see, change it. As terrible as it is, like, oh, I messed up the chord in this video, or like, I really wish all 3 of my letters of recommendation were great, but I've got 2 great ones and 1 okay one, or like, I was just tired the night I filled out this essay question. I could say more, but I just want to get it done. Give it that extra little bit of shine. That little extra bit could be what puts you over the edge.
And it is competitive. So I think you're totally right? Like, we're getting people from all over the country. So make sure that it stands out and that you've taken that time. So
yeah. And I love that you mentioned that too. It is competitive. So, it's easy for us to say, if you don't get it, it's okay, because we're in it, and we're in it. But I will say, really think about it though. If you don't get whatever you're gunning for, 1, it doesn't mean that it's the end. And 2, like you said, it is very competitive. Some years we've got 30 plus applicants and we can only take 1. Right. Maybe all 30 were great, and maybe only the top 10 were great. But we have to pick 1, so it's not to say that you were not great. It's like could only go with one, and we had to go with just one. So it can be very, 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 very competitive. Yeah.
So you have two more questions, then I'm going to not take up any more of your evening, but this has been so fun. So I'm just loving it. So one is, I've had a lot of questions about COVID and how that's kind of changed y'all's practice, if you're still singing or if you have new PPE. If you could give us a little rundown on how COVID has been treating y'all. Yes.
We don't, I will say first and foremost, it's like, I feel like a politician, like already saying like, I approve this budget, whatever. But so we don't reflect all pediatric music therapists. I can only talk about what we particularly have done. But that being said, you know, when things hit, we weren't allowed to go into patient rooms, and for 3 to 4 days of the week, we were home and only going in, 1 to 2 days a week. So that changed things dramatically. So when I was here, I could only go into rooms if it was end-of-life situations. But I still wanted to check up on patients from the door and say, I actually can't come in right now, but I want you to know I have not forgotten you. Mm-hmm. So I would make videos for patients using the songs that I knew that they would love, and give them the YouTube links saying, hey, here is a video of me playing down by the bay. And I know we love doing this song together. Here it is, so you can watch it, even though I can't come in and do this. Later on, then, as telehealth became more popularized, we did do video sessions, as well as many music therapists did. And then there's a time period, I think the hardest time was when we came back, because we were in this world where we were still doing content creation online. Yep, me too. We were still doing telehealth, the video stuff, but we were also going back in the patient's rooms while being mindful of the PPE. It was very interesting because it was like high priority enough to see, but if it's PPE requiring, like really, really reconsider it. So it was a weird place to be, and to have these tough conversations of like, well, you got to see this person, so how come you can't come see my kid? And this, we were all, we're all learning together, right? There's not a single book that talks about, oh yeah, music therapist, here's what to do when COVID hits in 2020. Exactly. No, we didn't know. We all learned together. Nowadays, we are, we're back in patient rooms all the time and stuff. Still being mindful of social distancing, so 6 feet away, which is something that I had taken for granted. Not to say I'm like in a patient's bubble, but to know that like if they're right there, I'm pretty far away. And then we are always wearing goggles and masks as well. So yeah, honestly, that's from the second we step out of our car, the mask is on. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. So it's intense. And anytime you're on a unit, the goggles are on, so it can wear on you real quick. But that is how it's been going for us. It's been such a learning experience for me too, where we have nicer goggles now, but we used to have like legitimate like swimming goggles almost that would like get condensation in them, so I couldn't see. And also like I have all this stuff on, so I couldn't move very well. So like you're taking away all of my senses. Yeah. So being able to rely so much on your musical skill, even when you can't like necessarily see exactly what you're doing. Yeah. It's been really interesting. And then our final question is from Marielle, who said, if she was lucky enough to spend 2 nights in Cincinnati, what are the must-dos and where do I eat? Oh, see, okay, I don't want to let you down, but you might have asked the worst music therapist. I am a terrible, always let everyone know I am a terrible Cincinnati, and I actually live in Florence, Kentucky, and commute every single day. Yeah. But that being said, there are a few things. So my absolute favorite spot is a place called Django's Tacos. They unfortunately, their main location closed, but there is still one elsewhere. I just haven't been to it, but COVID hit hard. but they have wonderful Wagyu steak tacos and fried chicken tacos and cod tacos and shrimp tacos and all these other really, and these wonderful churros with caramel sauce, and it's just way too good. So I really love that. Eli's barbecue, I believe it's called, is great. The Eagle, I know she asked for two. I'm just going to keep going. The Eagle is absolutely wonderful and must have. Trying to think if there's anything else that I'm like absolutely. Oh, and after you've eaten, then go to Grater's for ice cream.
Yeah, they are so good.
Specifically for the black raspberry chocolate chip, which is just the best flavor. And there are many other second places, but black raspberry chocolate chip is the best one. So
yeah, I love that. There's a Hoffa House downtown too.
Oh yes,
I like hanging out there. I know it's not like a COVID thing, but once COVID's gone, we have. Hopefully, the vaccine will be here before we know it.
Yeah, that place in particular is an experience. Like, I almost don't want to say what happens there. I just want to say go there.
Go there.
Enjoy. Yeah.
You'll like it. From somebody who spent time in Germany, I always like going there.
Oh, fantastic.
So we have a couple other people that we were able to get to who had like very specific questions. Is there a place they can contact you if they want to reach out, or should they just reach out via this video, or what would you prefer?
They can either message me on Facebook, the name's this Nathan Mensah and stuff. They could email, let's see, would be a good one. Nathan.Mensah@cchmc.org would probably be the quickest work one I could get back to you on. Let's go with that. I want to answer whatever the questions were for sure.
We had some pretty interesting ones about Zoom choirs and music technology. So you might have some questions popping your way.
Yeah.
This has been so lovely. I'm glad that we finally officially met.
Me too. Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys have other people you want to see on this little monthly medical rounds, we already have December, and they might have a connection to Nathan. So we might be like working off that.
Man.
We'll have to see. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you for the next one.